The beauty and the mystery of this world only emerges, says writer Orhan Pamuk, through affection, attention, interest, compassion. Open your eyes wide and actually see this world by attending to its colors and its details and its irony. And then poet Mary Oliver, she says, instructions for living a life. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it. Amen, says the universe. The story I have to tell about Infoglut, or any number of other names for it, data smog, data deluge, data apocalypse, data geddon, or just simply information overload. It starts with attention. Because Infoglut, to the degree it troubles us in heart and mind, steals from us the beauty and the mystery of this world. Just 4 years ago, the National Center for Biotechnology Information calculated the average human attention span to be 8 seconds, 1 second less than that of a goldfish, which has a 9-second attention span. 5 years ago, the human average was 12 seconds. It is a downward trend. Infoglut is a thief of vitality and connection and life. But in this sermon, I don't want to echo a message we've already heard today, that the problem is the avalanche of information that is coming to us from every side. I want to explore another dimension, the filtering capacity of the human mind. Fact is, the natural world sends us an endless stream of information, and we seem to be handling it just fine. Nature is absolutely not a source of the kind of stress and anxiety and fatigue and frustration and reduced productivity and feelings of being overburdened and overwhelmed that we get from, say, email, right? You guys look unconvinced. What world are you living in? That's what I want to ask. So what makes for the difference? Why can the body and brain handle natural infoglut with ease, but struggle so much with human-created infoglut? It's cognitive psychologist Daniel Levitin who helps us understand by describing some particular features of human attention that served us well 100,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago, but which nevertheless give us trouble now. One is this: how attention is a limited capacity resource. Levitin defines it as a 120 bits per second capacity to process information. He calls this the information speed limit for human brains. Now, it's 60 bits per second of processing power just to focus on and understand what a single person is saying, and that's the energy that you are expending right now. But now imagine how that expenditure gets ramped up if you are listening to me, but you're also checking your email, you're checking Facebook, you're tweeting stuff out there, maybe playing Candy Crush, I don't know. You certainly had an experience of that just a little bit ago when we challenged you to hear 4 speakers at the same time. Did you feel that exhausted? We were pushing you beyond, way beyond your informational speed limit. The closer we get to that, exceeding that speed limit, the more we hear but do not understand, the more mistakes we make, the more exhausted we feel. 100,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago, the complexity of the world was such that the information speed limit just worked fine for us. Now, not so much. Then there's the insight that our brains evolved to focus on one thing at a time. This, says Levitin, enabled our ancestors to hunt animals, to create and fashion tools, to protect their clan from predators and invading neighbors. The attentional filter evolved to help us stay on task, letting through only information that was important enough to disrupting our train of thought. So, what's a brain like this going to do with a smartphone like this? I mean, make no mistake, I want to party with my smartphone I want to party with this. This thing was designed to be a festival of multitasking. It is a Swiss Army knife, a digital Swiss Army knife. I want to listen to music as I check out Facebook posts, as I check out the current status of all my Words with Friends games going on, and all the other apps that are really cool on this thing. And I also want to do this while I am walking. And what else I want to do is this. When I'm in the more administrative mode of my work, and I'm not in some kind of meeting, I'm wanting to write this memo or want to write that report while I check my email, apparently 30 to 40 times an hour, or answer texts, or take calls, or make calls. This, with my evolutionarily designed one thing at a time brain, which also has a definite speed limit, which I am constantly trying to violate. What I want to do is get carried away in this brave new rush and gush world. But what my brain can handle is something very different. Our brains evolved to focus on one thing at a time, says Levitin. But a funny thing happened on the way to the 21st century. A way, to be precise, a way which started 5,000 years ago, when humans started inventing information technologies like writing. And here's a quick side note about writing. I found this fascinating. Apparently, the invention of it 5,000 years ago in the Sumerian city of Uruk was not really for lofty purposes of statesmanship or literature or song or religious expression as we might hope. No, what really drove the invention was business. What was needed was some way to keep track of business receipts more reliably. That is where all the writing since has come from. That is the original parent of writing, of the Bible, of Shakespeare, the I Ching, the Declaration of Independence, Harry Potter, business receipts. So I just thought that was actually very discouraging, actually. But listen to the Bible's own complaint about information overload. And it was written around 3rd or 4th century BC. This is how long ago this is, this complaint. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 12. Of making many books there is no end, and much study wearies the body. And then from the 1st century of the Common Era, Seneca the Elder, that great Roman statesman, he commented that the abundance of books is a distraction. I mean, these are complaints of information overload. We today are not original in our distress. Humans have been feeling it ever since the invention of writing. The unintended consequence was Infoglut of the human-created variety. Every new invention has just increased that Infoglut until we find ourselves where we are today, right now. New Yorker cartoonist David Cypress portrays a couple walking down a street, and one says to the other, "My desire to be well-informed is currently at odds with my desire to remain sane." But if we're struggling to remain sane, what happens to Mary Oliver's call to go way beyond that and to live a full life? She wants to give us instructions to live a full life. How do we get there? What do we do to make this thing better? And you probably won't be surprised to hear me say that in our Infoglut world, there are thousands and thousands of voices available on the internet. You can check out yourself. TED Talks out the kazoo, articles, blogs, and so on to tell you all about how you can better manage Infoglut in the world, just down to the details, nuts and bolts. But here, I want to say just one thing. Until the time further technological innovation can support our behind-the-curve brains with better filtering and managing devices, until that time, the best thing we can do is accept ourselves, accept our humanity, not to forget it and to act like we are more than we are, Fact is, it is easy to get addicted to Infoglut and the Russian gush world that it comes from, even as we struggle with it mightily. I mean, we live in a world in which our technologies enable us to transcend time and space, to know more things as individuals instantly that could ever be known before. And we can do things that to previous generations would appear to be true magic, miraculous. How amazing is that? So amazing it gets below our skins. We start developing expectations about ourselves and others that are distinctly inhuman and smack of the infinite. The inner logic is this: because technology makes it possible to transcend space and time, I and others should be doing that constantly through email and Facebook and Twitter, unceasingly and always. Because technology makes it possible to plug into endless data streams, I and others should be doing that constantly. Because technology makes it possible to do apparently miraculous things, well, I and others should be doing that too. I should be doing this. Other people should be doing this. The expectation has gotten beneath the skin, and it is impossible to live up to. We fragile humans always fail, and therefore there can be resentment towards others and guilt in ourselves. Both feelings go hand in hand. People should be able to respond to my emails within the hour or the day. How about within the minute? And if they don't do that, I resent them. I should be able to respond to emails within the hour or the day or the minute, and I cannot do that. My brain would explode. I can't do all the things I need to do. Therefore, I feel really guilty. In fact, one commentator on this scene, he has coined a phrase, giga guilt. That is the guilt we feel. Not just regular guilt, giga guilt. The addiction to the rush and gush, the expectations of instant responsiveness we develop for our others and for ourselves, this incredible guilt, the giga guilt, all of this reflects a forgetting of our basic humanity. I mean, it's not our fault that our brains, which took 200,000 years to form, have not kept up with technological developments of the last 7,000 years, which in evolutionary time is faster than the blink of an eye. To make things better, we must accept who we are. We are not God. And it is that key theological assertion, I am not God, we are not God. It's eminently practical because it allows us to prioritize. It allows us to know some things and do some things, as opposed to trying to know it all and do it all. You know, my smartphone, it sure feels to me like it can do it all. And I don't know about you, but when I dial up Google, I Google something, I feel like Google knows it all. But not me, not me. And that's got to be okay. I am not God. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief, says the Talmud. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. As Infoglut and data smog, data deluge, data apocalypse, data geddon, whatever else you want to call it, threatens to overwhelm you, remember, you are human. So take care of your vulnerable, fragile, evolutionarily behind the curve, but nevertheless precious self. Take care of that self so you can have a life. So you can do better than a goldfish with its attention span of 9 seconds. So you can pay attention. So you can be astonished. And so you can tell about it. Amen.